setting yourself up for the future appointments and activities that you will need to have, clearing out the database. We also do like a 15-minute power up call where we talk about a hot topic of the day, kind of sets the tone for the day, and then we get after it. So, like for me personally, though, I'll go through, I clear out all my email. I like to try to start with like a blank slate. I always try to get a workout in early in the morning. That's when my phone's not ringing. That's when nobody's bothering me. And then like I said, I clear off my tasks. I try to stay on top of everything. I live and die by my calendar. So the faster I can clear things off, the faster I can put things back on. And then that allows me to scale the business. So getting in the right frame of mind by getting my workout in when I'm not distracted, that allows me to like clear the mind. Then I clear the calendar, and now I start to put more on it.
That's awesome. So I actually have a question for you, because I know how easy it is to get into the office or open up the laptop and completely get sidetracked with maybe a fire that needs to be put out or an imagined fire that needs to be put out or all of those things. So how do you keep yourself focused to clear out maybe whatever was left over from yesterday or zero out that email? How do you stay focused and disciplined in order to do that?
Yeah, I prioritize the things that actually make money. And there really are no emergencies in real estate. And if there are, they generally require the police or the fire department. Now we have deadlines, of course, but those are things like those administrative tasks can either be delegated or those can be done during non-peak prospecting hours. So I always try to focus on the things that generate money, and doing a change in terms addenda or doing an extension on a contract. While that is very important to the transaction, that doesn't make you money. What makes you money is having real estate conversations, building your pipeline, setting appointments, doing your prospecting. Those are the today activities that result in future earnings. So I always prioritize my prospecting.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And easier said than done sometimes.
It
Well, I
is.
think that's why he's the top producer, right, Heather? So,
Exactly. You got to do the hard work.
yeah. So, Shawn, let's hear a little bit from you. I want to hear what your daily habits are. And I also want you to take on that second question. I think sometimes as a loan officer, people don't realize that, maybe for Ben, like he says, so I can wait and do my money-making activities first, but I can pause on this one. But as loan officers or title companies, sometimes our time is not our own, and we feel the pressure of other people's time. So talk to me about your daily habits and what do you do to keep on track with your money-making activities?
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Heather, again for having me. I think a lot like Ben mentioned, I read that book, Miracle Morning, and it kind of just talks about a practice. I think that's an excellent book. It would be a great revisit if you haven't read that book. But for me, I get up at 4:45. I do the gym. I do kind of I envision what my day is going to look like. I spend some time with some affirmations that I think that are going to make me stronger in the day. And when I think about the activities that are ahead of me and the focus that I put on the activity, meaning like I think cold calling or making phone calls is always like something that's difficult to do. For me, I try to make 75 phone calls a week consistently. And so that takes a little bit of dedication and planning to make sure that I see myself doing it. So when I go to the office, I run a team meeting. So I run with a sales team. I cover in 30 minutes basically what our priorities are. I do it collectively. So all my teammates are together at one time. I say don't do business inside a vacuum, meaning like don't do A to B conversations, bring the whole team together and have a conversation around all of that. So for me, what like a regular day looks like for me is that sales, again, are probably the primary focus. So I make sure that that's my prerogative. But I always start off with workout, time for myself, envisioning what the day looks like, reinforcing that activity through like some motivational podcasts, some mentoring, affirmations, journaling. And then when I get to the office, I already see myself there and I'm bringing my team together to kind of talk about what we need to focus on, whether that's leads, problem files, and then I can get started with the most important activity of my day, which Ben said is making phone calls and meeting face to face with my prospects, my leads, and my clients.
I love that. Now, like Heather asked Ben, what do you do when you get to the office and maybe, because it happens to us, right? I'll have a day where I'm like, yes, today I'm going to get this and this and this done because it's a perfect day. And then I go home and I'm like, I did nothing that I was supposed to do because all I did was react to my day and all the fires. What do you do, Shawn, to kind of stay and make sure that you're doing your money-making activities, even when there's so many fires that are out of your control around you?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of part of the business, and I think that most, I think on this call, you probably have a lot of seasoned professionals looking to pour back into themselves and develop their skills. But I think as you kind of go through this business after a year or two, you kind of realize where there's certain ebbs and flows and priority that is needed and when it's not needed. And I think that's kind of what Ben is saying, is that at the end of the day, we're all in our whole business is about leads and generating leads. So one of the tools that I use on a personal day-to-day activity is something called the personal greatness tracker. And so basically what the greatness tracker breaks down is that I'm tracking
Yeah,
my
it's the magic keyboard that comes with the iPad.
the greatness tracker tracks down what's important. So face to face, making phone calls, seeing people, shaking hands, doing videos, sending out thank you cards. And then it's all about my conversion. So I need to track how many leads I'm intaking, how many of that conversion appointments I'm getting from that. So I know that the activity that I'm doing makes sense. So for me, Sarah, it's as simple as just taking a piece of paper that's organized into a grid format the week in advance. So like Monday, I'll be planning out next week and what that activity and those phone calls look like. And then I carry this around with me. So, a day's going to get busy, or I'm in between appointments, or I'm stuck at a red light. If I have this written down next to me, then I'm able to make those phone calls and get my work done. And that's really where I put my value. And then as time goes on, I can just put better prospects on my leads. But I find just using pen and paper and a cell phone is the best tools that you can use in our business. Sometimes we get lost in our emails and our other concepts, and that kind of sucks us away because we're on the computer and then there's something on social media, or there's something that pops up, or there's an alert, when we just really need to be more disciplined at shutting all that down and just doing the phone call and the paper. And then when we're done with that task, then we can go on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, the keyword is discipline. And if you're working with a goal in mind, and I do tell all the agents on my team, like, let's set your goals. Like, what do you want to achieve personally and professionally? And if you have that goal in mind, the biggest thing that you need is discipline just to get there. And if you're constantly working towards this big goal, like, every step that you take and every client that you meet gets you closer and closer to where you achieve that big goal. But if you let distractions like ruin your calendar, you let people like steal your time, like, you're becoming undisciplined at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I once had someone say to me, allowing, someone to interrupt or take over your time so that you aren't able to do your money making activities is basically taking money away from your family. And so for some people, if you frame it that way, and, this is taking things away from not just me professionally, but from my family and my ability to provide for my family, that might be a perspective that someone needs in order to stay that disciplined.
I love that. I
So,
want to make sure, this is,
oh,
I
perfect.
actually use the greatness tracker as well, just like Shawn. I have sat down with Shawn and masterminded many a times to make sure that I'm doing my activities. So I wanted to show you what the greatness tracker looks like, and it has these activities on the left so that it takes away kind of all you're sitting there that day and you know exactly what you need to do because you have it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you do want a copy of the greatness tracker, you can always email Shawn. Both of our speakers are going to put their information on the chat. You can also email us after this and we can send it to you. But, they both have some great ideas on how to stay on track. I love it. Now, we did talk about how to structure your day to stay organized and productive. And I think that we don't talk enough about this. So I want both of you guys to say this. Because I know that, at least for me, I know that I have to do my money making activities in the mornings, whether I feel like it or not, because the way that my day is that whenever realtors need me, it's always in the afternoons, because that's when people get out of work. That's when all of a sudden things are happening, walkthroughs are happening. So I know that if I have a money making activity that I want to do, regardless what it is, I just have to get it done through the day in the morning so that it can be done. Do you guys have any other things that you structure your day to stay organized and productive?
Yeah, on that, like I look at like the time windows and when people are generally going to be available, and your audience is different than my audience. Like I'm primarily targeting buyers and sellers, and those people tend to either be at work or be doing family activities. So the best time that we typically call people is between 4 to 7 p.m. And that is a time that like I absolutely need to protect on my schedule. So I make adjustments in other areas. Like I typically get my daughter ready, my wife ready, so I'm home a little bit later in the morning, so that way I can spend that family time, because I know I'm going to be in the office a little later in the afternoon. And that way I'm still getting time with my family, I'm still prioritizing what's important, which is my family, but I'm also prioritizing the business. So I structure around that and then fill the appointments accordingly. And again, I live and die by my calendar. If you let a client take over your calendar, you're going to lose that prospecting time, and then your future business is going to suffer. So even something as simple as like when I schedule a showing, it's not when is good for you. It's I'm available Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. or Saturday 11 to 12 p.m. Which time's good for you? And that way I'm respecting my calendar while giving my client some options.
I love that. Shawn, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of gets into the essence of like time management and time blocking. I think we all struggle with this because, I think at any level of the business that you're at, you're always kind of in some type of change pattern. So you may be doing really well, and now your business is blowing up. Now you have to readjust. Maybe you hired a teammate, and so there's always things coming on and off the calendar. And so that's really why I spend a lot more time, in this season, especially like in this early first quarter, talking about lead generation all day, every day, because like the atomic habit, you got to get in the practice of saying, this is my block, this is what I'm committed to, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the first thing. Everything else needs to fit around this. So I have different theme days. So like in the greatness tracker, we call different kinds of people, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. And so those time frames, like Ben said, I recognize that past clients are more available in the evening times. If I call them at work, I'm probably not going to get a hold of them. So my time block on a Thursday night looks different than a time block on a Monday. But either way, I set a block there to say that I'm going to make these phone calls at this time, and then I communicate that with anybody that could impact that, especially teammates, anybody that I manage. And I would say that if you live and die by the calendar, I've heard Ben say this, it's super important to get all of your activities on the calendar, because to be efficient at time managing and putting that A task ahead of everything else is you have to be knowledgeable about where your time is going and how much time you're spending doing activities. I think you have to be really mindful of that. So if you go to the gym, if you pick up the kids from school, if you're in the car, like I think relatively all those things should be kind of accounted for on the calendar. So for me, if I know I'm making phone calls to prospects and I know I got to go pick up my kids, I'm throwing all my phone calls while I'm driving to pick up the kids. Or if I know I'm in a Zoom meeting, I'm going to hop in the car, drive to my next appointment. I'm going to do my Zoom in the car while I'm listening. And then that way all my minutes are accounted for, and I'm making the most out of every minute that I have. But a priority is really know what you're focused on. I mean, like I said, leads is super important. Meeting people face to face is super important. And we got to make sure that we're planning time for that. And then, like Ben said, time block that for showings and listings, things like that.
I'll take it a step further too, Shawn. Like not only are leads important, but you should focus, and we tell our agents to do this as well. Like focus on a particular type of lead. Like if we're calling expired leads, let's call expired leads in Baltimore County. That way you're not constantly spinning your wheels, running multiple comp reports. If you're calling through a specific school district, you are going to end up having the same comps, having the same conversation. If you're calling through your sphere, it's a different conversation. So like, let's just focus on our sphere. So even down to like who we are calling, we try to get systematized on that as well.
Nice. And that sounds a lot like the theme days that Shawn has on his greatness tracker as well. So
Exactly.
Ben, I'm going to stay with you for a second here. So then, these are kind of the general systems that are in place, but specifically, what systems do you have in place to follow up with your leads or potential clients, and even maybe your existing clients as well?
Yep. So we use a pretty robust CRM called Brivity. Now, I'm a firm believer that the best CRM is the one that you use. And like, I also have an investment portfolio, and we use an Excel sheet, and we use a very basic Excel sheet because it works and that's all we need. But for the number of people in our database and the number of activities that we're doing, we need something a little bit more robust. So we log all of our calls, we track all of our conversations, we put our appointments all in Brivity. We track our leads, their status, their stages, where they're at in their home buying or selling cycle. And the idea behind that is to create predictability. So that way I can say, great, you did, $2 million in volume in Q1. You made this many phone calls. You had this many appointments. If you want to do more in Q2, you need to up your activities, and so forth and so on. So that way we can project and again create those predictable systems. You don't need something that is that advanced. Like when I first started out, I used an Excel file and then I used Follow Up Boss, and just having those reminders, having those notes, having some touch points, those will keep you top of mind and keep you on top of your clients as you grow.
I think this is so powerful. So before we go to Shawn, I want everybody to write what Ben is saying right now, because if you look at what top producers are telling you, what did Ben tell you? An Excel spreadsheet is fine. It's a matter of creating the habit to do something consistently. That's all. That's the difference between top producers and those agents that are not able to do it, is the fact that they are doing things consistently. Shawn is telling you that he does 75 phone calls a week because he has been able to track and see that 75 phone calls a week is what is getting him. He's got his habits where he has theme days so that he's in the habit of doing, he already knows what conversation he's going to have. Ben's team is doing the same thing. They know that if they're going to go on this type of leads, that they're going to go all in, so that it creates that habit that allows them to have those conversations and become better. And by being able to track his activities, then he can double down on those activities that are actually making him money or making his teammates money, so that he can get to the numbers that he wants. Now, what about you, Shawn?
Yeah, I think for me, I would probably say just kind of pen and paper has kind of been my go-to. I feel like the busier I get, the more that I value the pen and the paper versus like a robust CRM system. So we do use like a big CRM system called Salesforce. We integrate it with Ring Central. So any of our marketing information, all those phone calls filter through, we log it. We have text messaging through our CRM. We have, auto campaigns. We have all that. But in the daily activity of things, I know that I'm busy. I'm in and out of appointments. I'm driving. So having the pen and paper there is super handy, because sometimes I don't have access to get into the computer and do those types of like that. I don't want to data log anything. For me, my value is really kind of being in touch, being face to face, and in conversation with prospects and clients. So for me, just using the greatness tracker, I have a paper document called a lead tracker, and it's just going to track the information like their contact info, how many times I've called them and reached out to them. And then I'm tracking that down to conversion. So like, how many leads am I getting? How well am I doing on the next stage of the activity? So for me as a loan officer, I want the lead, then I want them to apply, then I want them to go under contract. So I'm tracking those metrics, but I initially just do everything on paper. And then because I do have the luxury of having teammates, I can hand that conversation to a teammate to do my data entry, to import, to create my list for future call sets. But pen and paper is really my best CRM system. And then like a more robust CRM helps with kind of some secondary marketing stuff.
That is
So
very
Ben, I'm sorry, Sarah. So this actually, a question popped into my head for Ben listening to Shawn talk, which is, so, Ben, you have a team. How are you tracking your team members, or how are your team members tracking their activities, so that, you can see that everyone's making their calls, or that, they're setting their appointments and you're setting your appointments and all of those things. So how do you track those items?
Yeah, we start the year, and we actually started this in December, where we put in our income goals and then we put in our average conversion rate. So that tells us how many contracts we need, and then the nationwide average of conversion. So that's how many appointments we need to run. So we start with the big goal in mind, and then we work backwards. Now I have a couple of my team members on the call today, and a theme recently is we just got to keep logging the activity. And I tell my team, like, I can't coach you if we're running different plays, if we're not on the same system. So that data, while sometimes it can be tedious, I acknowledge that. Sometimes you're driving and you forget to log a call, I acknowledge that. But the more data that I have access to, the more insights I have in order to help, coach up an agent's business. So it really is in everybody's benefit to log the activities. So yeah, I'll analyze the data, and then the agents will also come talk to me. They'll tell me, hey, I've got a listing appointment. It was one of the leads that was just sitting in the database. I got a buyer that I uncovered. So I'm also getting that feedback directly from the agents, and that's really valuable because that tells me that they're bought in and they're also excited and seeing some results.
I love that. And again, where we track is where the energy goes, and that's where we see results, right? Like if you're trying to lose weight, they tell you track what you're eating. If you're going to, go run a marathon, track how you're running, track your systems of working out. Anything that you want to see improvement of, you have to track. But people for some reason hate tracking. So guys, tell me, I know, Shawn, that you said that you use pen and paper. Ben, I know that you use your CRM, but how do you keep tracking of your goals so that you can make sure that you're looking at that success? And when do you maybe look at these, right? Let's say, for example, that there's people here that are not seeing the success that they want or that they're capable of. What would you suggest for them to start tracking? For how long before they can analyze that data to see what activities they need to do in order to get to where they want to be?
Don, do you want to? Oh, I see you're drinking some water. Sorry.
No, I'll jump. I'll jump.
Yep, good.
So I think we all have goals. I love that I see like vision boards at offices. I think that there's a lot of that has to do with like monetary. And I think sometimes in our business we focus on like some type of activity. So I want to do $10 million in production or $20 million in production. I see that as like a common goal set, but sometimes we don't really break down the math enough to really understand what that means. So like, for us, we would want to check your like take home pay. So how much is your net income? So we don't want to just do a lot of activity and do it for cheap and burn ourselves out and have like a poor work-life balance, and our spouse wants to divorce us, our kids don't know us. Like, we don't want to be in that world. We want to be in the world where we can build a great team and have a lot of income. So maybe we do start with like some sales volume, like I'm going to do $20 million in production or $50 million in production, and then break that down into like, what are my expenses look like? What does it cost to originate that? What's my average cost per transaction? And then kind of back into that, what's my desired net take home pay? I think it's really important to think about that because the industry focuses too much on that top line, that gross number, but the net number really matters the most to us. So I did that for practice this year. We came up with a 6-month goal set. So I break my goals into 6-month blocks, and then I try to work in 2-week segments. So meaning that in 12 months, I want to do this activity, and then in 6 months, I need to do this type of work. And then I break that down into my daily activities. That's what generated basically the number of deals I need to get, my conversion. So like how many leads, how many deals am I getting in? How good is my conversion? Like 20%. So then I would need X to make this amount of income. And this is what I need to pace. So that's where I came up with, in 6 months, I need to make 1,560 phone calls in 6 months. I know that, some days I got to pick up the kids from school, or I got to go to the doctor for something. So I know there's going to be disruptive in my days, but if I know that basically it breaks down to 15 great phone calls a week, like that's it. It's all I need to do per day. And so that focus, that small little goal every day keeps me in mind with like what I'm working for. My goal in 2025 is to buy a new house. So in 2025, I know that in January and February, I might be super slow, but if I just discipline on my activities, and then when I get busy, I'm disciplined on my activities, I know the results are going to come, and I can stay focused on that big prize and not let the micro environment that we deal with every day affect me, because I prioritize that. I'm not saying that I did that right the first time I made a goal like this, but as I make goals and as I practice, it gets better and better. And I think that's the idea of a habit. You know, I always kind of jokingly say, that, do you know what the heaviest weight at the gym is? It's the front door. You know, going to the front door and opening and going inside is the start of a journey for fitness and health. And as you go and go and go, you get more miles in, you get heavier weights in, you get more discipline, you start to enjoy it, you develop a community around it, and then it becomes just, that's just your life now. This is something that I really enjoy doing. So I would think of your goal like that. This is a great time of year to be thinking about, what am I going to accomplish in the next 6 months, and how do I break that down into daily little things that if I do this consistently, I'll get everything and more.
Yep. I agree. I mean, we used to focus on the volume, and that's kind of the wrong way to look at it. Like, the volume is the result of the activity. So now we're focusing on the activity. Like, I would rather an agent, make 50 or have 50 conversations in a week than sell an investor 2 houses. That's kind of a flash in the pan. If you're having 50 real estate related conversations a week, you're setting up your future self for success. So we've really put a big emphasis on those top line activities that lead to the future results. And you're absolutely right. Like, getting in the good habits, it takes 21 days to build a habit. So you just have to start. And I wouldn't start by saying like, oh, I'm going to, conquer this entire database and set up, the most robust real estate website with all this, technology. Start small. Start small by just A, getting your list of people that you need to call, and then B, what are your notes, making sure you have accurate information, name, phone number, email address, mailing address. And then finally, just putting the activity in, getting in that habit of doing a little bit a day until you get into that routine of every day for 21 days. You're tracking, you're logging, and you're going to start to see the results.
Yeah, I would just say too, I think, we talked a little bit about CRM systems, and, I meet a lot of agents, and then we have conversations about business planning and activities and working our past client database. And, sometimes we have a CRM. It may mean different things for different people, but I think it depends on what your goals are. So having some clarity on why you're in relationship with people and how do you honor that relationship, meaning that, like, do you have like a document in your like system, something like an all about you form. So if I call on Heather, I know who her dog is, her children, I know what type of coffee she likes, because those little things become really important later in life. Like, hey, how's the dog doing? And say it by name, say the dog's name. Like, those really help build relationships. So CRM should be, how do you develop or deepen the relationship? I would say use the all about you form. And then I would also say, like, dates of birthday, home anniversary dates, like, do you want to like have events for your database, like past clients? Do you want to have some virtual event or some physical event? And so I think, like, when you're creating the CRM, like, how are you tracking it? Like, some of the other things we've recently added is, have we connected with them on social media platforms? And in our CRM, we added check boxes for like Insta, TikTok. Personally, I don't think TikTok's going away. So add them on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, because then you're kind of in their lives, and there might be a life event. Or one day you log in and you're like, oh, Heather just listed their house, or she just got a job promotion, or they're having another kid. Like, it's a great opportunity to kind of check in with them. But I think getting the information and starting to track it is the first step. What you do with it can be kind of a secondary step with a little bit of coaching.
Love that. And
Nice.
remember, ask questions, because this is an opportunity for you guys to ask any questions that you want from these top 2 producers who are spending an hour with us, masterminding on helping you guys. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah. So, Shawn just mentioned a lot of different things, different social media platforms. Shawn and Ben both have been talking about CRMs. So, Ben, I'll start with you. What is one piece of technology then that you feel like you just can't live without? And why is that?
Yeah, I know Shawn's answer, so I'm going to try to go a little bit different. And I've talked about like my CRM a ton. I would say just having access, the internet in general. You can find out a ton of information about people through social media. Shawn was talking about knowing interests. I'm one of the only Washington football fans in the Baltimore market. At least I'm the only one that's vocal about it. And one of my lenders called me and was like excited about the game the other night, and like he's just there building a relationship. And I even put a status online about like the Dan Snyder curse is over. So if somebody were soliciting my business or somebody wanted to re-engage with me, checking social media, I've gotten a bunch of deals, whether it be investments, listings, or buyer clients by sliding into people's DMs. So I would just use what people put out there, because they're basically telling you what is important, what's going on. You don't want to be creepy about it, but if somebody's putting it on social media, I'd say it's pretty fair game to, pick up the phone, give them a call, and talk to them about that football game, because I guarantee you most people aren't doing it, and you're going to stand out.
Nice. Yeah. Anything you can do to stand out is always a good thing, especially if it's leading you to forming better relationships with your clients or with your business partners. Shawn, how about you? What's your favorite technology?
I'm just going to say the phone, whether it's a flip phone or a smartphone. I mean, making telephone calls takes this business so far. I see a lot of new agents, new people in the business, and they want to do everything like via the email. Look, I don't know if your email got to you. I don't know if we're communicating effectively. I don't know if that question was supposed to be a different question and I answer it incorrectly. So I think the telephone goes a long ways, and some of us are a little bit lazier. We feel like we got the kids in the car, we can't answer it. But just making the call and just saying, hey, can you clarify this? Or I got this updated. Like, it goes a long ways with creating relationships. You get way more efficiency out of it. And, I think anybody's like texting me more than like 2 or 3 text messages, I'm just calling them because there's so much more going on. I don't want to go back and forth, or then I get distracted and now I didn't answer and I'm just like that guy. So the telephone is key for me. I mean, it does so much more than just phone calls, but that's really where my focus is at, is just increase the communication and you'll get a lot more accomplished.
I love it.
Nice.
So we do have a question. Ben, I'll start with you and then Shawn. And the question is, what do you tell people when you call them? And this is either a cold call or when you're calling past clients as a follow-up for future business. Ben, what do you do?
Yep. So I personally hate when people call to check in. Like, I'm sure you guys have gotten that call from somebody trying to sell you life insurance or hey, I'm calling to check in. I'm like, no, you're not. You're calling to sell me something. I tell my team we need to have a relevant business reason. Like, what important information can I convey to you so that way I provide value in this phone call? And checking in is not that. Are you ready for your home, like to resume your home search? No. If I call and tell you interest rates went down a percentage, like that's valuable. It might not be on your radar and it could be enough to get you to act. Or if you're cold calling like expireds or circle prospecting or whatever you're comfortable with, if you call with relevant data, hey, 123 Main Street, which is right across the street from you, just went under contract. I was actually in the neighborhood. I saw there was a line out the door. It might be a good time to sell your house. That's relevant and valuable data. Additionally, I know the acronym FORD, Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. When I call my past clients, I'm not calling them like, hey, you ready to sell your house? Like, no, that's kind of the equivalent of checking in. I'm calling to see how their family's doing. I'm calling to see like how their intramural rugby team is, or like whatever their thing is. Like, I'm calling to check on that, and inevitably, and I don't talk about real estate at all, inevitably they bring it up. How's business? I saw you just sold that house on social media. I saw like, you got your kid. Like, they're going to start asking questions about you because these are people who know, like, and trust you, and they want to hear like how things are going with you. And then that's your opportunity to brag and then finally ask for referrals.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're in our own heads where we feel like, oh my gosh, I sold them a house 3 years ago and I haven't called them then. It's going to be weird if I call them. They're going to know that it's about it. Nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you. They don't know you're supposed to call them. So you can just, use an excuse like, hey, I'm updating my CRM. How are you doing? How's life going? Tell me what's been going on. How are the kids? Blah, blah, blah. And just like Ben says, just try to talk to them about what's going on in their life. But obviously, the better data that you have, the more information. Now, what about you, Shawn? What do you say when you call?
Yeah, so I'll kind of take it from a different angle, a little bit more business approach. I think past clients is a great way to build your business, and it should be one of your pillars to building business. So you may have lead generation, you can have past clients, you can have business owners, but past clients is a great testimonial. They already know you, like you, trust you. That's a Bob Burg quote. So I think some of the value that we can bring to our relationships is kind of investing into them. So taking time to listen to them, like Ben said, if they like rugby, if they got the kids' names, the dog's name, their favorite food, a coffee. I think all of those are great to be building your CRM. It makes these calls a lot easier in the future. So make sure you're tracking them because you'll need it. And then, I think about like anniversary calls. So that's easy too, right? Like I can check in, hey, can you believe a year ago we settled on your home? One of the things that I give you value is a complimentary comparative market analysis. So lead with the value, like, hey, I just want to let you know, can you believe that we bought that house at such a great value and you've created $200,000 in equity? Isn't that amazing? And I think you're just kind of like letting people know, acknowledging like the work you did and where they're at financially and how important owning a home is, so that you could do that. And I also call on past clients. I have a little bit of a system. So there are 52 weeks in the year, or 52 letters in the alphabet. So I say 52 weeks in the year, 26 letters in the alphabet. So on week 1, we call all of our past clients that start with the letter A. Week 2, we call all of our past clients that start with the letter B, and we just go through. So that means twice a year, we're touching our past clients in some type of, at least touching them, like making the phone calls to them. And the conversations that we can have with past clients is we can, again, check on the comparative market analysis. I love doing like parties. So like, I'm sure that you probably have something at your office. So we started doing in our office 2 planning events. So we have one of our financial planners and one of our estate attorneys doing a Zoom call. And we personally call, we let them know that it's coming, we invite them to them. This kind of our value add. So I think for you in your business, your clients, you could kind of segment. You could have, maybe Ben mentioned investors as part of his segment. Maybe you have like a top investor or a hard money guy come in and talk about like, how do you do a deal analysis? How do you host Airbnbs? Like these are great ways to touch with your database. And I think it's like easy layups. Like it's hard to call somebody and say, hey, Tom, yeah, do you want to get a house? Like that's tough, but it's super easy to say, hey, Tom, I got a happy hour next week. I think it's gonna be great. There's a lot of great people there. I'd love for you to come. Hey, you're one of my valuable clients. You referred me such and such. I would like you to come. So I think, create something that allows you to kind of leverage it. And I think, doing Zoom classes is great because you can really just, for me this year, I have about 6,000 people in my database right now. So that Zoom is going to all my database. So that's my contractors, my investors, my teammates. Like it's just value for everybody. And it's a great chance for me to market. If Sarah, I'm writing down some notes. So I will send out also a checklist for like doing anniversary calls. I think there's kind of like some ways to generate leads there. Ask them about them, especially in their first year, how they moved in. Do they have a CPA they're working with? Do they like that CPA? Well, I need to be in touch with that CPA. So then you can call the CPA and say, hey, Sarah told me that you're a really great CPA. I meet a lot of clients. I'd love to meet more CPAs to give out for referral business. So you come with value again, like, hey, I want to expose you to my database. But really, that CPA knows a lot of people that you should know too. And so you kind of create this sphere of influence too, like a whole little bubble. So there's a lot more to work with the past clients than I think we give it credit.
I love that you said that, Shawn, because as part of, how I work in my greatness tracker on Fridays, I call business partners. And what I mean by business partners is like on Fridays, I'll just sit around. And if I have my estate attorneys, divorce attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, I call them and I'm like, hey, I just wanted to touch base with you if there's anything going on so that I can expose my sphere to you. And if I don't have any, I'll sit down and I'll Google like, okay, give me the 10 best estate attorneys within 15, 20 miles of my office. And then I'll start calling them. Hey, I am an attorney, but I don't do this type of law. I would love to refer you. Can I sit down with coffee for you? I had, we teach this where we talk to some of our agents and say, you can go ahead and start talking to bankruptcy attorneys, estate attorneys, commissioners of sales. And I had an agent the other day who texted me and said, I had just come back from maternity for 6 months. I started doing what you told me. And she's got like 5 different listings in 1 month that she got from an estate attorney. So these kinds of things work as well. You are helping, you're calling with your clients, your past clients, with the whole, hey, we are doing estate planning, something that whether you're buying or selling, it doesn't matter because it's something of value and keeping you top of mind. Now,
Can I just piggyback on that for a second? So, for like real estate agents, Monday phone calls should be calling on your, what I would say, like whale clients. This means like probably business owners is what I would say. So these are folks that are in like a center of influence that can refer you not just one deal, but many deals. So like a CEO of a company, a human resource professional, a relocation company, a home builder. I think those would be fantastic. CPAs, financial planners, all fantastic. If you are active on social media, this is an easy one to build out that sphere a little bit more. Is just go on Instagram and say, hey, I'm looking for a great divorce attorney. Now tell your spouse before you make that post what you're doing. But you'll get the community leveraging a lot of people that you don't even know about yet and say, hey, you should talk to this person was great. You'll get a whole prospect list, and now you can use that prospect list to like work into your Monday phone calls to get some new contacts that, a lot of times I feel like we get stuck in our bubble and we think we know everything. Sometimes we got to break that bubble down and open it to find new contacts and new opportunities that don't exist. Sarah's heard me talking about who moved my cheese. This business is all about moving the cheese. You got to be always looking for more cheese.
Love that. Okay, guys. So the big question is, and I love how you said this, Shawn, because I coach with Mike Ferry, and he's always saying this. He's like, you've got 365 days, but of those 365 days, there are days you're just not going to work because you're going on vacation, or you're sick, or someone in your house is sick, or you're just unmotivated. And I think when you're realistic about that and you tell yourself, I'm only going to, work these days, you are a lot more efficient. But there's days where you're really not motivated. So what do you guys do to stay motivated and stay disciplined, even on challenging days?
I'll grab it unless you want to grab it, Ben.
Yeah, that's fine. Good.
I think motivation is kind of like I mentioned. So I want to buy a house in 2025. That's the goal, right? So I'm going to buy a house in 2025. It's going to happen. If for some reason it doesn't happen, I, in my mind, cycle through a penalty if I do that. And for me, that penalty would be like telling my daughter, 4 years old, that we can't buy a house because dad didn't show up for work. Like that's like emotional. I'm like, oh, like I better make some phone calls. So I think for me, like it's psyching myself out, because if I feel myself going into a bad spot, like today, my foot's a little hurt because I was doing too many burpees at the gym. I'm like a little like stressed out. I'm a little worn out, making a lot of phone calls. Beginning of the year is like getting going. It's a lot of work right now. And, I just got to play that in my head. And for me, that motivates me. I also like stay motivated around like Goggins. That really gets me amped up. So I listen to that on YouTube. So I recognize that if I'm getting off of the path that I'm supposed to be, I need to get faster at getting back on the path. And for me, like that's why the greatness tracker works, because I can see visually that I'm not making the effort that I need to make in the focused area. And so I need to get back on, and to recognize too that we all fail, we get off track, we got things that come up. It's going to happen. Just be okay with it and just be like, shit, okay, this is not where I want to be at. Let me get back where I need to be. And as soon as we can recognize it, we get better and better at it, and we can stay focused. And I would say making like habits, kind of like, again, miracle morning, like that time blocking from like 4:45 a.m. to like 6:30 before I bring the kids to school is like my time to like vision how this day is going to rock out. And so I think, really recognizing how your body and how your mind adapts to things, and being able to recognize, self-reflect on things when you're getting off track. Be like, all right, cool, I'm off track. I got to get back on track. And I think too, just as a bit of mine, I think for all of you on this call, I think getting around people that are like super pumped up about 2025, got that right vibe, got the right mood, like you need to stay in that circle, and you need to get out of the other circles. I'm sure you've all heard about the boiling frog, where the frog's in the water, they turn on the heat and he just boils to death. If you take a frog and put him into boiling water, he jumps right out. So sometimes we don't know we're in a bad spot until we get around great people and great people help us level up, get new opportunities, and kind of break through. Let's go.
I love it. Okay, Ben, what about you? And I do want you to mention, when we had our pep call, you talked about treating this like a job, like a real job, even though it is a real job. So talk to me about how you stay motivated and disciplined, but also talk to me about how you view your job.
Yeah. So everybody on this call is the CEO of their own business, and you have to treat it like a job. And so many people get into this industry. It's super easy. There's no like roadmap. Like, you get your license and great. Like, you can go sell somebody's most expensive asset. Congratulations. You don't know what you're doing, but you have that ability. So I treat every opportunity as a learning experience, and every person that I meet is an opportunity for a referral or for future business. Like, the story I always share is I rented this guy's house out 7 years ago. And I mean, it wasn't a super expensive rental. He ended up owning 5 other properties and sold them all with me. And he's like, I was so impressed with how you handled that rental. Like, I want to work with you. You're my guy moving forward. So I always recommend, like, say yes to everything as long as you are like smart about it. Obviously don't do anything that's going to make you in like an unsafe position or anything along those lines. But getting that network as big as possible, as quickly as possible, is super beneficial. And then with regards to motivation, we're tracking on a weekly basis. Stuff happens. Last week, I had to replace all my plumbing in my house. Like, that was super stressful. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I wasn't myself. And I knew I wasn't myself. I wasn't in the right headspace because I got this major stress in my life. So I make it up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And as long as I'm doing the activities and hitting the numbers that I need to hit on a weekly basis, I'm not taking a day off, like, by any means, but life is also allowed to happen. And by also looking at things on a weekly basis, it allows me to plan accordingly. I got something coming up with my daughter this weekend. Great. I'm gonna get everything done beforehand, so that way I don't miss time away from her. So long and short, look at everything from not necessarily a micro standpoint, but looking at it collectively from a week instead of a day to day is more beneficial than, because if you lose a day, like, you're going to feel bad about it. You're going to feel negative. So I'd rather look at the agents winning the week.
I think one of the things that we always talk about is that as soon as you plan a vacation, we get super busy.
Yeah.
So I plan vacations. I don't know about you, but I plan vacations. And I try to do it in cycles, right? Like, I know the spring market's really like a push in all aspects. So July 4th, I definitely take that weekend off for myself and enjoy the time. Setting like a great goal like that also gives me kind of breaks in between the cycles, and kind of rejuvenates me, but also like, hey, I'm working a lot of hours in June, working a lot of hours, but I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna enjoy it with my family, keep my family focused on the July date. So like, hey, I don't see dad. Hey, we're gonna have a great time in July. Like, I know that that's the business. And so like, for me, I take breaks in March, take breaks in July, and then I'll take a break kind of like end of December, 1st of January. So I do that to kind of cycle, and it allows me to work up to something, to be looking forward to it. And I think, like around here in Northern Virginia, it's too cold, it's dark too long. So I try to get to like Miami in March to get some of that vitamin D and some of that nutrient, get me inspired again. And then I come back up here and I'm really ready to rock for the spring season. So I think just being in tune with kind of how you operate is really important too, and that this business runs in cycles. So run in cycles too.
Well, and I think to your point though, like, you take vacations, like, and you mentioned you're super busy, and that happens to me. Like, I go on vacation and like everybody wants to write an offer. That happens because you're working so hard up until that point that your funnel is massive, and naturally, like, people are going to want to take action. It's just a coincidence that vacation happens, but it's the result of the activities that led up to that time that you knew you were going to take away.
That is very powerful, because I think sometimes we need to know, like, I work really hard because I know I'm going to take a break instead of just phoning it in because I'm tired and I really need that time off. And I know that I'm going to have that time off. So I work really hard. Okay, Heather, last question. You guys, if you have any questions for our amazing panelists who are killing it, I'm right here writing and sending notes. This is the time, because we are going to end right at 2. So Heather, last questions for our panelists.
All right. So this is my favorite fun question on the list. So We'll start with Ben. Ben, do you have any like quirky or unusual habits to unwind at the end of the day? I mean, this is a stressful business, and you know, you have to do something to keep your sanity. So, do you have any unusual rituals or any particular way that you like to unwind?
Yeah, it's definitely spending time with my daughter, and I feel like I turn into a different person. My buddy, he had a child last week, and I sent him a video, like my daughter and I talking to each other, and even like my tone of voice is different. So I have a 2-year-old, and like I said, I turn into a different person. I turn into like goofy dad, and like we have dance parties. Last night, like we're singing some funk song, and I'm like, all right, it's time to boogie down. And she looks at me, she's like, I'm boogieing down, and then she goes, I boogie up, and it's just like that's why I do it, and it's to be present and to have those memories with my daughter, to give her like a great life, and just leaving work at work and turning into a different person, a super positive fun dad. Like it takes all the stress away, even though like I might go to bed and still have some things I need to do in the morning. It allows me to just like be super present and make sure she has like good positive memories with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know for me, it's my dogs. Like my dogs climb all over me, and it's just like everything just melts away. So I can totally relate to that. Shawn, how about you? What do you do?
Yeah, I have kids too. I'm kind of in the same boat this season of my life, a 1 year and a 4-year-old. So like,
Mm,
I think, but it's really important. If you want work-life balance, we talk about it. You should put work-life time balance on your calendar. Meaning, like, you call me between 6 and 8, I'll answer and just say, hey Ben, is this super urgent? Do we need to do this today? If not, I can work on it after 8 o'clock, after I put the kids to bed. Most people respond super positive to that. And it's also like a check for you, is for you to check out and say, hey, I just need a break, some time for myself. Because I think a lot of times, especially like in the spring season, we can just be go, go, go. I can have phone calls at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning if I let them. But really just being disciplined to your schedule and owning your time is super important. It does take practice to do that. And there's a little bit of a fear that, oh, if I don't do this right now, I'm going to lose the deal. But just acknowledge that it's there, and then take time for yourself and say, hey, this is my time. This is where I rejuvenate, whether that's relaxing on the couch, Netflix and Mario Kart, playing with the kids, walking the dog. You just got to take a break and just be disciplined. I'm taking a break. I'll call you back in an hour or tomorrow morning, whatever it is.
nice. Yeah, keeping that balance is so important.
Yeah. Ben, go ahead and put your information on the chat for any of the people who are here today. Same thing for you, Shawn. In February, we have a mastermind as well. It's going to be around how to provide exceptional service for customer service. And we are going to have Andre Serafini from Raw joining us as one of our panelists. So super excited. You can sign up for any of our classes, masterminds, or book clubs directly from our website. We put the link in there before. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Ben. You guys have been incredible. There are so many great nuggets of information in here. As we said, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems and your habits. I really appreciate the fact that you guys took an hour out of your very busy calendars to talk to us about the habits and the systems that you guys have and how you stay accountable for yourselves and for your families. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Go kick some butt, create some great habits, and I hope to see all of you guys in our book discussion on January 23rd. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, everybody.